when my peaceful backyard became a luxury resort for entitled strangers, led by the HOA queen herself. I warned them. They didn't listen. So I dusted off my plan, sprinkled a little blue justice, and watched chaos erupt from the deep end. This is how I turned trespass into legend. I never imagined that my biggest headache after finally settling into my quiet Florida retreat would come wearing designer sunglasses and wielding laminated HOA pamphlets like they were the 10 Commandments. Let me back up. About 3 years ago, I bought this property, a beautiful, aging Spanish-style home tucked at the edge of a once rural stretch now slowly devoured by suburbia. I picked it for the quiet, the view, and the backyard. That backyard was sacred. I'd spent months renovating it myself. Brick patio, custom grill station, a row of tall palms lining the fence. But the crown jewel? My pool. My pride, my sanity, my temple of chlorinated solitude. I wasn't part of any HOA. My land, thanks to a clause dating back to the original zoning in the 70s, sat neatly outside the Homeowners Association's reach. It was in the deed, and I double-checked with my lawyer before even placing an offer. Freedom, that was the point. Then came the Briners. They moved in 2 houses down at the start of spring. Karen, her husband Tom, their adult daughter Savannah, and a guy named Tyler, who may or may not have been the daughter's fiancé. The moment the moving truck pulled away, the neighborhood started buzzing. Karen wasted no time introducing herself door to door like she was campaigning for Congress. She brought banana bread to some houses, HOA brochures to others. I avoided the welcome wagon. Nothing personal. I'm just not a banana bread guy. I first properly met Karen a week later when I caught her walking her little yapping dog along the edge of my property. "Hi there, you must be the new guy," she called without missing a beat. She was in tennis whites, despite the fact that there isn't a single tennis court within 5 miles. Karen Briner, HOA president. I didn't reach for her hand. Nick, just Nick, and I'm not in the HOA, just so we're clear. That made her pause. Only for half a second, but I caught it. The twitch behind the smile, like I'd just farted at a wine tasting. "Oh," she said. "Well, you're still part of the community." She said community the way televangelists say salvation. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing small things. Nothing huge at first. Pool floats moved slightly. My favorite Adirondack chair shifted position. Wet footprints leading up the side gate. A half-empty Truly can in the bushes. For a second, I thought maybe I was losing it. Then I checked the cameras. I had a few security cams hooked up. Nothing fancy. Just enough to keep an eye on the back gate and patio. When I pulled the footage from the last week, I nearly choked on my morning coffee. There they were. Karen, her husband, her daughter, the maybe fiancé. A few people I didn't even recognize. In my pool, drinking, playing music, jumping off the deep end like it was Club Med. They weren't just dipping a toe, they were hosting damn pool parties. It happened 3 separate times while I was out grocery shopping or working late. Once at night, with floating candles and tiki torches. I kept watching the footage, jaw tightening with each second. At one point, Karen even opened my outdoor fridge and pulled out a beer. One of mine. She held it up and toasted the camera. "To the good life," she said, slurring slightly. The audacity made my temples throb. The next morning, I waited. Sure enough, around 9:30, Karen strolled past with her yappy dog again. She gave me a big wave. "Morning, Nick." I stepped out from behind the hedge. "Morning. We need to talk." She stopped, her expression tight but still polished. "Sure. Everything okay?" "You've been using my pool. You, your family, multiple times, without permission." Her smile didn't even flinch. Oh, that? We figured it was okay. I mean, you weren't home, and it's such a shame for it to sit there unused in this heat. It's private property, I said, not a community amenity. Karen tilted her head. Well, Nick, you are part of the neighborhood. Whether you signed the papers or not, we all benefit from shared spaces. It's not a shared space, I said flatly. It's mine, paid for, built by me. I never gave anyone permission. She gave a little chuckle. You're being a bit dramatic, don't you think? Nobody got hurt, and we always cleaned up after ourselves. I gestured toward the bushes. Really? Because there's still beer cans back there from your little gathering. Her face hardened, just slightly. Nick, you might want to consider being a little more neighborly. This is a tight-knit community. People talk. That's so? I said. Well, let them talk. And while they're at it, you tell them next time someone touches my gate without permission, I'll have the cops do the talking for me. Karen blinked once, like a lizard. Then just as quickly the smile returned. Of course, Nick. Wouldn't want to cause trouble. She walked off, her dog dragging its feet behind her. I stood there watching her go, fists clenched at my sides. Something told me that was far from the end of it, and unfortunately I was right. It started with an envelope. Not the regular kind you get stuffed with coupons or credit card offers. No, this one was thick, cream-colored, embossed seal. The kind of envelope that practically announces, I am important and will ruin your day. It was hand-delivered, no postage, just placed inside my mailbox like it belonged there. Return address, Sunvale Shores Homeowners Association. I wasn't a member, never had been. My property, again for the record, was carved out before the HOA even existed, and I double-checked every legal angle before I bought it. I knew where my line ended and theirs began. Still, curiosity's a hell of a drug. I opened it. Inside were 4 neatly stapled pages titled Notification of Violation and Community Easement Clarification. I had to read it twice before I realized what kind of circus-grade mental gymnastics were being attempted. According to this document, my backyard, including the pool and half of my patio, was erroneously omitted from the community's recreational overlay during a supposed zoning adjustment made in 2006. They attached a revised map where my property was literally marked with red ink as Zone B, Shared Recreation Access. They even included a paragraph explaining that due to historic precedent of use, the space was now considered quasi-public under Sunvale Shores' updated Community Shared Amenities Initiative. It was such a perfect cocktail of legal gibberish and suburban nonsense I almost applauded. Then I noticed the signature. Karen Briner, HOA President. Of course, the cherry on top? A friendly little note at the bottom. Please coordinate with the HOA to establish scheduled community use hours. Non-compliance may result in mediation proceedings. I nearly laughed myself into an aneurysm. I called my lawyer, Melissa, who practically spat her coffee when I read it to her. Nick, this is fabricated garbage. There's no such designation as shared recreational overlay in municipal code. That's not a real zoning status. I figured, I said. But can she actually push anything with this? No. But she's trying to look official to make you panic and give in. It's all pressure, no substance. Melissa recommended I file a preemptive cease and desist. But I had another idea first. That evening I walked down to the HOA bulletin board at the community clubhouse. It stood like some kind of town square monument between the tennis court and the garden Karen never weeded. Stapled front and center was a flyer, glossy, full color, titled, Community Reminder, Shared Pool. Courtesy guidelines. There in bullet points were rules. For my pool, designated hours, guest towel expectations, no glass containers. And my personal favorite, respect the space provided by generous homeowners who contribute to our shared environment. There was even a clip art image of a pool that looked suspiciously like mine. Same stone edge, same pergola. Even the damn flamingo float. The next morning, I posted laminated signs all along my fence. Private property. Not HOA jurisdiction. Trespassing equally police. Cameras recording. I made sure the font screamed, "I will sue you in my sleep." 2 hours later, Karen was at my door. I didn't invite her in. She stood there with that tight-lipped smile, holding a clipboard like it was a badge. "Nick, I noticed the signs. That's not a great message to send to your neighbors." "Good," I said, "because the message is, stay the hell out. I think you're misunderstanding the spirit of the easement. There is no easement. There is precedent of shared community use. No, there's precedent of you and your Instagram cousins trespassing." She tried switching gears. "Nick, you're coming across as combative. This isn't how we build a neighborhood." "I'm not in your neighborhood. I'm next to it. There's a difference." Karen paused. Then came the threat, sugar-coated and passive-aggressive. "Well, if you're not interested in compromise, we may have to involve community council. There are steps the HOA can take." I smiled. "You mean more fake letters? More photoshopped maps? Be my guest." She stiffened. "The document is legitimate." "Karen, I have the original parcel map from county records. Yours looks like it was drawn by a drunk kindergartner with a highlighter." Her nostrils flared. She turned and left, muttering something about non-compliance reports. Later that week, a neighbor approached me at the gas station, a guy named Leo from down the block. He leaned against the pump and said, "Hey, Nick, just a heads up. There's talk in the Facebook group." "Oh?" "They're saying you're hoarding community resources, that the pool was always meant to be for shared use. Karen's calling it the neighborhood oasis." "She can call it Atlantis," I said. "Doesn't make it hers." But something clicked in my head. This wasn't just trespassing anymore. Karen was building a narrative. The map, the flyer, the HOA noise, it was all designed to create a paper trail, a perception that they had always used the pool, and I was the one being selfish. And if enough people believed it, if she kept pushing long enough, maybe she thought she could bully reality into changing. It was a con, a petty pastel-colored land grab, and I wasn't about to let it work. The final straw wasn't a flyer. It wasn't even Karen's second attempt to redefine the word easement during a HOA wine night livestream, where she referred to me as a reluctant participant in shared community wellness. No. The last nerve snapped when I came home from a 3-day business trip to find a pair of hot pink flip-flops on my back porch. Still damp. Next to them, an empty bottle of rosé, not mine. The kicker? A half-eaten shrimp cocktail left in my pool skimmer basket. They were nesting. I'd been civil, clear, firm, and they didn't care. So I decided it was time to try something a little less diplomatic. Let's be very clear about this. What I did next was completely legal, completely harmless, and entirely satisfying. There's this product, technically used in dye tests for leaks in public pools and fountains. Food grade, safe, practically invisible under normal light. But when it reacts to moisture, especially chlorinated water, it leaves behind a temporary, vivid, glowing blue residue on skin, a kind of molecular shaming agent. Oh, and it fluoresces under UV, brightly. I found a vendor online that sold a slightly modified version for industrial integrity verification. Bought 2 containers. Overnight shipping. A bargain for under $100. One Friday night I stayed up late. Not to party, but to prepare. First, I skimmed the pool, cleaned the area spotless. No debris, no distractions. Then I sprinkled the powdered dye along the inner walls of the pool, near the steps, the handrails, and inside the floaty cup holders. I even hit the underside of the inflatable flamingo that Karen loved so damn much. Lastly, I misted the chaise lounges and the poolside bar with a diluted UV-activated solution, just enough to trigger under the right conditions. Then I left town. Business trip. Real one this time. 48 hours in Miami. While I was away, I kept checking the cameras. Saturday afternoon. Motion detected. Footage showed the usual suspects. Karen arrived first, wearing a flowing white caftan and sun hat that could land a plane. Then came Savannah and Tyler, dragging a cooler and a JBL speaker. A few more guests trickled in. Some unfamiliar. Maybe friends, maybe followers. They were treating my yard like a goddamn Airbnb experience. The flamingo float made its triumphant re-entry. The rosé returned. Someone even brought tiki torches. I sat in my hotel room sipping black coffee, watching it unfold like a live episode of HOA's Most Entitled. Then it happened. About 20 minutes into the pool party, things took a turn. On the footage, people started scratching. First Savannah, rubbing her arms like she'd rolled in fiberglass. Then Karen stood up and pulled at her neckline, yelling something at Tyler. Guests began looking at each other in confusion. One guy tripped trying to get out of the pool. A woman shrieked when she noticed some neon blue streaks. All over her thighs, mass hysteria broke out like a synchronized swim from hell. Karen slipped on the deck trying to reach her bag, leaving a glorious smear of blue on the pavement, like a crime scene from a Smurf slasher film. They started screaming, grabbing towels, sprinting barefoot toward the gate. One guy left his phone behind. Tyler dropped his flip-flops. Savannah ran out wrapped in the flamingo, yelling, "What the hell is this?" It was beautiful. By the time I got home Sunday night, the place was quiet. But my cameras had caught everything. And the best part, Monday morning, the neighborhood group chat, which I had never joined, but oh boy, screenshots find their way, exploded with rumors. Posts like, "Is there a chemical outbreak? My daughter came home with weird blue stains. This is a health hazard. We need to know what was in that pool." Someone said the HOA pool was sabotaged. Someone even uploaded a photo of Karen's legs, bright electric blue, blotched like a malfunctioning chameleon. Another shot of Tyler's back, streaked like body paint at a rave. People wanted answers. And Karen, oh, she gave them. On Tuesday morning, she marched up my driveway like she was storming Normandy. She didn't even knock, just pounded on the door with righteous HOA fury. I opened it calmly, holding a mug that said, "World's Property Owner." "What the hell did you put in that pool?" she spat. I tilted my head. "My pool? You know damn well what I'm talking about, Nick. We've all got some kind of rash. And blue stains. I had to throw out 2 pairs of sandals." "Karen," I said, sipping slowly, "that sounds awful. But you were warned not to trespass. This was sabotage, poison. Actually, it's a leak detection dye. FDA approved, harmless. Goes away in 24 to 48 hours, but you'd only come into contact with it if, say, you were swimming in a private pool that clearly had warning signs and was locked, which would be trespassing." Again. She opened her mouth, then closed it. For once, she had no words. "I have cameras, Karen, all angles, full audio, multiple entries, daylight. You even looked directly into one while opening my fridge." "You set us up," she hissed. "No," I said, "you set yourselves up. I just enhanced the lighting." She stormed off. I didn't stop her. Later that evening, someone taped a note to my mailbox. "You're going to regret this. HOA Legal Committee." I laughed for a solid 5 minutes. By Wednesday, the HOA echo chamber had turned into full-blown digital warfare. I didn't even need to be in their private Facebook group to know it. Screenshots flooded into my inbox from sympathetic neighbors who had apparently been waiting for an excuse to see Karen eat dirt. Turns out when you get half the neighborhood stained blue on a weekend, it leaves more than physical marks. One particularly juicy message read, "Can't believe she said it was a community wellness soak. I didn't sign up for a rash and PTSD. The best part? Someone had anonymously leaked security footage from the pool party. Not all of it, just the highlights. Karen, wine glass in hand, doing her little Queen of the HOA strut by the deep end. Her daughter slipping and smacking into the flamingo. Blue-stained chaos, screams, scrambling. A slow-motion shot of Tyler tripping over his own cooler like he was evading a predator in the wild. Within hours, a Twitter account popped up. Poolgate Watch. First tweet? Karen and co. get blue-balled by private property rights. Accompanied by a glorious gif of her falling in reverse captioned, "When trespassing stains more than your conscience." It went viral faster than a gas station scratcher scam. By Friday, I'd had enough of being the mysterious recluse watching from behind security cams. Karen had tried to rewrite the truth, to twist law, perception, and damn near the zoning code to claim something that didn't belong to her. It was time to stop playing defense. So I built a wall, not a literal one, more of a statement. I had a local print shop make a custom weatherproof banner, 10 feet long, vinyl bold letters. Private property. Trespassers will be dyed. Now in HOA blue. Underneath the text, I arranged a full-color mosaic of stills taken directly from my security footage. Karen, Savannah, Tyler, and their guests, mid-splash, mid-drink, mid-scream, all lovingly captured in digital clarity. I used face blur only on the unknown guests. The core Briner family, front and center. I mounted the banner along my back fence facing the street, visible from the sidewalk, lit by solar-powered spotlights. Next to it, I installed a tasteful plaque that read, "Unauthorized use of this pool may result in humiliation." The neighborhood lost its collective mind. Some neighbors cheered. One guy drove by blasting the Jaws theme. Another left a 6-pack of beer on my porch with a note, "For the most entertaining thing to ever happen in this HOA." But others, Karen's allies, called it aggressive, unneighborly, borderline harassment. One woman from 3 houses down knocked on my door just to say, "This is a nice neighborhood. We don't need this kind of hostility." I smiled. Tell that to the ones who broke into my backyard 5 times and called it community spirit. Karen, for her part, was silent for almost 2 days. Then came the retaliation. Early Sunday morning, I spotted her from the upstairs window. She walked along the sidewalk in workout gear, casually dragging what looked like a dog leash. No dog. She stopped across from the banner, took a picture on her phone, and walked off. That afternoon, a cease and desist letter appeared on my porch. Again, this one printed on HOA letterhead, threatening legal action for public defamation, intimidation, and targeted harassment. According to the document, my banner was damaging to the dignity of residents and misrepresenting the intent of community leadership. I used the same banner printer to make a new sign. All photos taken on my property. All events occurred without permission. All complaints will be framed. Installed that right next to the first one. By Monday, local group chats and forums were on fire. People couldn't look away. I even overheard 2 joggers slow down outside my fence. "That's the one! The blue pool guy. Wait, this is his house?" "Yep, that's her right there in the middle. You can see the wine in her hand." Oh my God, she did say it was a community wine bath. It wasn't just petty now. It was performance art. Karen finally broke on Tuesday. She stood across the street with folded arms, glaring like she could set fire with her eyes. Then she shouted, "Congratulations, Nick. You've made a circus out of a neighborhood." I stepped out onto my porch, coffee mug in hand. "Not my circus, Karen, just my pool." She didn't respond, just walked away, shoulders stiff, maybe realizing her empire was beginning to crumble, or maybe just calculating her next move. I didn't expect it to come from Leo. We weren't particularly close. He lived a few houses down, kept mostly to himself, drove an ancient hybrid that sounded like a dying blender. The kind of guy you wave at out of habit. But one evening, just as the sun was bleeding out over the rooftops, he knocked on my door. He looked around before speaking like he was about to drop classified intel. "You got a minute?" I stepped onto the porch. "I saw your banner," he said, avoiding eye contact. "Bold move." "Desperate times," I replied. He shifted, lowering his voice. "Listen, I wasn't going to get involved, but I thought you should know. Karen's been running something." That got my attention. Leo pulled out his phone and opened a private browser tab like a teenager hiding from parental controls. "Look," he said, showing me a page on a site I'd never heard of. A boutique experience platform like a fancy Airbnb for niche events. And there it was. Sunvale Shores Hidden Oasis, VIP pool access with ocean view. Hosted by KB Photos, my backyard, my pool, my goddamn flamingo float. In the description, tucked away in an exclusive coastal neighborhood, this private pool is perfect for your girls' weekend, couples getaway, or content shoot. Includes towel service, Bluetooth speaker system, and beach access. $50 per person, minimum group of 4. BYOB welcome. I stood there numb. Leo continued. She's been bringing in strangers, influencers, people from out of town, not just neighbors. She calls it curated community outreach. I overheard her once bragging that she made over $1,000 in a single weekend. My brain hit pause. Not because I didn't believe it, because it made too much sense. The random guests I didn't recognize, the coolers, the portable ring lights someone left behind. Hell, even the weird couple I once caught taking engagement photos by my hedge. I'd assumed they were just eccentric relatives. Karen wasn't just trespassing. She was monetizing it. I thanked Leo. He nodded like a man lifting a curse and disappeared down the sidewalk. That night I gathered everything, all my footage, screenshots of the fake listing, the flyer Karen had posted on the bulletin board, the fake easement letter, and the HOA's official shared access statement. I printed them, sorted them chronologically, and made 3 neat copies, one for my lawyer, one for code enforcement, and one for court. Then I filed suit. Civil trespass, commercial exploitation of private property, defamation, conspiracy to falsify community documentation. Melissa, my lawyer, was practically giddy. She's going to self-destruct in front of the judge. They always do. The court date was set for 2 weeks out. In the meantime, Melissa filed an emergency injunction banning all HOA communications about my property until the case was resolved. We also sent a cease and desist to the experience platform. The listing vanished within 24 hours. Karen, however, did not. She doubled down. HOA newsletters became hostile. One included a tone-deaf message from Karen herself titled, "When Isolation Harms Unity," accusing certain residents of weaponizing litigation to attack the fabric of the neighborhood. She actually used the phrase, emotional trespass. At the hearing, she arrived in a cream-colored suit that screamed local authority, flanked by Tom and an attorney who looked like he specialized in HOA bylaws and lemon water. The judge, a tired woman in her 60s with the gaze of someone who'd seen one too many suburban soap operas, looked over the documents. "Ms. Briner, this map you submitted, Where did it come from? Karen smiled. From our records. We maintain a comprehensive database of community planning revisions. Do you have the original? Karen blinked. Pardon? The original zoning adjustment you referenced. Do you have the municipal version? The one filed with the county? Silence. We have a scanned copy, her lawyer offered. Melissa stepped in. Your Honor, we obtained the official parcel map from the county clerk's office. This is the actual zoning history. She handed over the real documents. Karen's fake community overlay wasn't just fake. It was childishly fake. Fonts didn't match. Signature was missing. There was even a visible watermark that said, sample use only, not legal. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a fabrication. From there, it was a massacre. Karen's attorney tried to argue that informal precedent of shared use could imply a kind of legal easement, but the judge cut him off. This isn't California in 1842. You can't manifest destiny someone's backyard pool. In the ruling, the judge called the HOA's behavior unethical, misleading, and bordering on fraudulent. She ordered immediate removal of all HOA materials referencing my property, and issued a public notice confirming the property was entirely outside HOA jurisdiction. Karen was ordered to pay damages for trespassing and defamation. Not a fortune, but enough to hurt. Plus, legal costs. The next day, a moving truck appeared in front of her house. Tom did all the heavy lifting. Karen just stood by the porch, arms crossed, watching it all come apart. Her crown had cracked. The queen was dethroned. As the final box disappeared into the truck, I stepped out onto my porch. We made eye contact. She didn't say a word. I gave her a small wave. She turned away. It started with a headline. Florida man outsmarts HOA with pool dye and security cameras. The article popped up on a small local blog, one of those clickbait-heavy sites that ran stories about sinkholes shaped like Jesus and alligator sightings near Walgreens. I figured maybe a few hundred retirees would chuckle and move on. I underestimated the internet. Within 24 hours, the story had been picked up by a regional news channel. They called it The Pool War of Sunvale Shores. The thumbnail showed a freeze frame of Karen mid-scream, mid-sprint, glowing blue like she'd fallen into a vat of melted Gatorade. Then Reddit got hold of it. A post Injustice Served went viral, 500,000 upvotes in under a day. The title? HOA Karen turns private pool into illegal Airbnb. Homeowner dies her and wins lawsuit. The comments were merciless. People were photoshopping her into scenes from Breaking Bad. One meme showed her face blue and blotchy with the caption, "I am the one who pools." Someone edited the footage into a fake trailer. Blue Tide, the HOA reckoning. I watched it 3 times. TikTok wasn't far behind. Clips of Karen falling into the pool under dramatic slow-mo effects trended under the tag Stir Pool Justice. A Gen Z influencer even posted a duet, dancing next to the footage in a flamingo costume. The video had over 6 million views by the end of the week. And then came the interview request. It started with a DM from a local reporter named Nina Martinez. Young, sharp, just cynical enough to survive the news business. She wanted to do a profile piece. Something about property rights, personal boundaries, and how you took a creative stand without ever firing a shot. I agreed. She came over that Friday wearing practical shoes and a smile like she knew this was going to be her breakout story. We sat by the pool. I offered her lemonade. She asked if she could see the infamous banner and took photos beside it, grinning like she'd just found Bigfoot. The segment aired that night. It opened with drone footage of my backyard, set to heroic music that was probably royalty-free. Nina narrated, When one Florida man found his backyard hijacked by a power-hungry HOA, he didn't just fight back. He made a splash heard across the country. They spliced in the best footage, the blue dye moment, the party chaos, the court verdict, all wrapped in a perfect 3-minute package. The final shot? Me, leaning against the fence wearing sunglasses with the caption, Nick Rivers, property owner. By the next day, my email was a war zone. Interview offers, podcasts, law school professors asking to use my case as a discussion point. One guy from Arizona wanted to fly out and shake my hand. A lawyer offered me a speaking gig at a property rights seminar in Vegas. Even the county commissioner's office sent a polite message. While we don't condone vigilante zoning justice, we do commend your innovative use of passive deterrence. Someone mailed me a t-shirt that read, "Don't trespass where you can't swim." I wore it to the grocery store. I couldn't go anywhere in town without someone recognizing me. A woman at the deli counter gave me a 10% discount on sliced turkey for defending liberty. A guy at the gas station saluted me with a Red Bull. A high schooler rolled past on his bike yelling, "Pool King." It got absurd fast. But what really stayed with me was a message from an elderly couple who lived on the far side of the neighborhood. They emailed me a photo of themselves standing next to their hot tub with a sign that read, "Private, protected, inspired by Nick. Thanks for giving the rest of us a backbone." That hit harder than the memes. Karen, meanwhile, had vanished from public life. Her house went dark. Her Facebook account was deactivated. HOA meetings continued, but with a new president, a soft-spoken man named Daryl, who opened the next session with the words, "Let's please not end up on the news again." And so the legend solidified. I wasn't trying to be a hero, I just wanted my damn pool back. But apparently in suburbia, standing your ground without screaming earns you cult status. Weird world. 1 year later, I threw a party. Not just any party. The first annual Blue Tide Bash. A petty, sparkling, slightly petty celebration of what the neighborhood had come to call the Chlorine Revolution. I sent out formal invites to every homeowner in a 3-block radius, minus one vacant property still up for sale after Karen's quiet departure. The invitation read, "Come cool off where the HOA couldn't take the heat. Dress code, indigo and irony." By 5 in the afternoon, my backyard was packed. Lawn chairs circled the pool. Blue lanterns swayed from the pergola. Guests sipped on custom cocktails like the HOA cooler and Karen's mistake. One guy even wore a full-body blue morph suit and floated on the flamingo all evening, arms spread like suburban Jesus. Everywhere you looked, people were laughing, relaxed, alive in a way that neighborhoods rarely are. It wasn't just about the pool. It was about drawing the line, literally and metaphorically, au quant, and watching the line hold. Someone set up a mini projector and played the original local news report on loop. Each time Karen's voice cracked on camera, the crowd applauded like it was open mic night. And me? I mingled, I grilled, I clinked glasses, I wore the infamous t-shirt, "Don't trespass where you can't swim," and added a pin that read, "Neighborhood menace since last summer." At one point, a new neighbor came up to me. Young couple, just moved in a month ago. "You're Nick, right?" the guy said. "We heard about you before we even closed. You're kind of legendary," his wife added. "The seller's agent called this the most secure pool in the county." I laughed. Glad to know my reputation precedes me. They handed me a small gift bag. Inside was a garden gnome, painted entirely blue, with little sunglasses and a tiny plastic flamingo under his arm. I nearly choked from laughing. Later in the evening, as the sun slipped down and the party hit that perfect buzzed hum, one of the local news vans rolled up, uninvited but clearly tipped off. A reporter hopped out and asked if she could get a quick quote. I agreed, mostly because I'd had two Karen's mistakes and was feeling magnanimous. The clip aired that night on the 10 o'clock news. A year after a high-profile HOA dispute, the man behind the viral pool die revenge holds what residents call a celebration of boundaries. They showed me raising a glass poolside, surrounded by neighbors in matching blue sunglasses. "Any advice for other homeowners dealing with HOA drama?" the reporter asked. I smiled at the camera. "Install cameras, lock your gate, and never underestimate the power of a little blue powder." As the credits rolled, they played a slow-mo shot of the flamingo guy drifting in the pool, arms still spread wide, as someone off-screen yelled, "Long live the pool king!" It was stupid, it was glorious, and it was mine.